One of the hardest retirement decisions is not how much money you saved, it is how you turn that money into income. That is where many people become confused because accumulation and retirement are not the same game. During your working years, the objective is mostly clear: earn, save, invest. Let the portfolio grow, avoid destructive decisions, keep compounding alive. But when you retire, the question changes. Now the portfolio has to do something much harder. It has to pay you, it has to support your life, it has to keep up with inflation, it has to survive market declines, it has to last as long as you live, even though you do not know how long that will be. And in many families, it also has to leave something behind. That is a very different problem. A person can spend 40 years building a portfolio and still feel completely uncertain about how to spend it. That is not because they are foolish. It is because retirement income requires converting a pile of assets into a series of cash flows, and that conversion creates trade-offs. If you had $1 million at retirement, how much could you safely spend? Most people immediately go to withdrawal rates: 3%, 4%, 5%, maybe higher. That conversation matters. Withdrawal rate is one of the central ideas in retirement planning. But if we only talk about withdrawal rates, we miss a second tool that can change the entire risk profile of retirement: guaranteed lifetime income. That is the part many people avoid talking about because annuities are emotionally charged. Some people love them because they create a paycheck for life. Some people hate them because they require giving up control of a lump sum. Some people have seen bad products with high commissions and poor structure. Others have seen retirees sleep better because a portion of their income was contractually guaranteed. So I am not going to approach this as pro-annuity or anti-annuity. That is the wrong frame. The better frame is this: what problem are you trying to solve? If the problem is maximizing flexibility, a portfolio may be better. If the problem is securing a base level of spending for life, guaranteed income may help. If the problem is leaving the largest possible legacy, annuitizing part of the portfolio may reduce what heirs receive in some outcomes. If the problem is living a very long time without fear of running out of income, an annuity may become more valuable the longer you live. There is no universal answer. There is a set of trade-offs. And the goal of retirement planning is not to find the product that sounds best. The goal is to design an income system that fits your actual life, your risk tolerance, your spending needs, your desire for certainty, your need for flexibility, your health, your family, and your feelings about leaving money behind. That is why I want to walk through this carefully. We will look at two different retirement income systems. The first is the classic portfolio, funded spending plan. Social Security provides the base income and the portfolio fills the gap. The second is a hybrid system. Social Security provides part of the base, and annuity provides another guaranteed income stream. Then the remaining portfolio fills a much smaller gap. The difference is not only mathematical, the difference is psychological, the difference is how much pressure the portfolio has to carry, the difference is how the retiree feels when the market falls. The difference is what happens if the retiree lives a very long time. The difference is how much control remains in the account. That is what makes this decision important. Let us begin with a simple couple. They retire at age 65 with $1 million invested. One spouse receives $2,500 per month from Social Security. The other receives $1,250 per month together. That gives them $3,750 per month, or $45,000 per year. In guaranteed income, that is their income floor. It arrives regardless of what the stock market does. It is not tied to the SP 500. It is not dependent on interest rates in the same way a portfolio is. It is not a dividend that can be cut by a company. It is not a bond fund that can fluctuate. Social Security is the baseline. Now suppose this couple wants to spend $95,000 per year in retirement. They have $45,000 from Social Security. That leaves a $50,000 gap. The portfolio must fill that gap. If the portfolio is $1 million and the couple withdraws $50,000 in the first year, that is a 5% withdrawal rate. A 5% starting withdrawal rate sounds high to some people because many retirees have heard about the 4% rule. But context matters. A 5% starting withdrawal rate can be sustainable in many historical situations if the retirees are willing to be flexible. The key word is flexible. If markets are strong, spending can remain higher. If markets are weak, the retiree may reduce discretionary spending. If inflation changes, adjustments may be needed. If spending naturally declines with age, the burden on the portfolio may fall. In real life, many retirees do not spend the same amount every year forever. Spending often declines over time. Travel may slow. Housing may become stable. Big lifestyle costs may shrink. Some health costs may rise, but many discretionary expenses fall, and Social Security continues to provide a strong income floor throughout retirement. Those factors can make a 5% withdrawal more realistic than it looks in a simple spreadsheet. But for this example, let us be conservative in one specific way. Let us assume the couple does not reduce spending at all. They want to spend the same real amount every year. Their portfolio must provide $50,000 every year. Because they rely on the portfolio for a significant part of their income, they may invest somewhat conservatively. In the source example, we assume the portfolio earns a 5.5% real rate of return. Real means after inflation, so the example is not ignoring inflation. It assumes the portfolio grows at 5.5% after inflation and still supports the withdrawals. Now look at what happens. At age 70, the portfolio may be around $1.03 million. At age 80, it may be around $1.1 million. At age 90, it may be just under $1.3 million. Over 25 years, the couple may withdraw around $1.3 million from the portfolio. Yet the portfolio may still grow to roughly $1.3 million by age 90. That is the beauty of a portfolio when the return exceeds the withdrawal. The couple spent more than their original $1 million of wealth from the portfolio, yet the accounts still remain near or above its starting value. This is the classic retirement income model. Social Security provides a guaranteed floor. The investment portfolio fills the gap. The portfolio keeps growing. The retiree spends from it. If returns are strong enough and withdrawals are managed, the strategy can work very well. For many retirees, this is a perfectly reasonable plan. But notice what is happening. The portfolio is carrying a lot of responsibility. It must produce the $50,000 annual gap. It must survive bad markets. It must remain psychologically tolerable. It must keep the retiree calm when the balance falls. It must produce income through recessions. It must keep working if the retiree lives to 90, 95, or 100. That is a lot to ask from one pool of capital. The plan can work, but the plan depends on market performance and the retiree's ability to behave well under uncertainty. Those are not minor details. A spreadsheet can show sustainability, but when a retiree is actually living through a bear market and the portfolio is down while withdrawals continue, the emotional reality is very different. The portfolio-only strategy may be financially sound, but it places the retiree inside a system where market performance matters every year. Some retirees are comfortable with that, others are not. That is where guaranteed lifetime income enters the conversation. Now we need to define the annuity carefully because the word annuity covers many different products. Some annuities are simple, some are complex, some are useful, some are expensive, some are sold badly, some are designed for accumulation, some are designed for income, some have market exposure, some are fixed, some have riders, some have surrender charges, some are inappropriate for many people. So when I say annuity here, I am not talking about every annuity product in the marketplace. I am talking about a specific type used for income. A single premium immediate fixed annuity, often called a SPIA. The structure is simple. You give a lump sum to an insurance company. In exchange, the insurance company promises to pay you a regular income stream, usually beginning very soon, sometimes in 1 month, sometimes in a quarter. The payment amount depends on your age, gender, interest rates, and the payout option you select. Once the contract is established, the insurance company takes the investment risk and the longevity risk. It is responsible for making the promised payments as long as the contract requires. That is the key. The retiree is exchanging a lump sum for guaranteed income. This changes the retirement equation. The portfolio no longer has to carry that same income burden. But the retiree loses liquidity on the money used to buy the annuity. This is the core trade-off. Certainty for control, income for access, longevity protection for flexibility. You cannot understand annuities unless you understand that trade-off. Now there are several payout options. The highest monthly payout generally comes from a life-only annuity. This pays income for as long as you live, but when you die, the payments stop. There is usually no remaining value for heirs because the insurer is not guaranteeing payments beyond your lifetime. It can pay more per month. This is the purest form of longevity insurance. If you live a long time, it can pay very well. If you die early, the insurer wins financially and your heirs may receive nothing from that annuity. That is uncomfortable for many people. The next option is life with period certain. This pays for life, but it also guarantees payments for a minimum period, such as 10 or 20 years. If you die before that period ends, the remaining payments go to your beneficiaries. Because the insurer is taking on an additional guarantee, the monthly payout is lower than life. Only then there is life with return of premium, sometimes called a cash refund provision. In this structure, if you die before receiving at least the amount you originally paid into the annuity, the remaining unused principal is paid to your beneficiaries. For example, if you put $400,000 into the annuity and receive $150,000 in payments before dying, your heirs may receive the remaining $250,000. This offers some protection against dying early and losing the unused principal. But again, because the insurer is giving that protection, the monthly payment is lower. Every guarantee has a cost. That is another principle. There is no free protection. The more guarantees you add, the lower the starting income usually becomes. Joint life coverage for a spouse costs money. A period certain costs money. A refund provision costs money. Inflation adjustment costs money. These are not necessarily bad costs. They may be worth paying, but they reduce the monthly payout because they increase the insurer's expected obligation. This is how annuity math works. Now, what determines the payment size? The first factor is interest rates. Insurance companies invest the premium, often in long-term bonds and other fixed income assets. When interest rates are higher, insurers can generally earn more on the money they receive. That allows them to offer higher monthly payouts. When rates are low, payouts tend to be lower. That is why annuity quotes have looked better in higher interest rate environments. The second factor is age. The older you are when you buy the annuity, the higher the payout tends to be. The reason is simple. The insurer expects to make payments for fewer years. A 75-year-old generally receives more per dollar than a 65-year-old because the expected payment period is shorter. The third factor is gender. Women tend to live longer than men, so a woman may receive a slightly lower monthly payout than a man of the same age, all else equal, because the insurer expects to pay her for a longer period. The fourth factor is the payout option. Life only pays the most. Adding guarantees lowers the payment. Joint life coverage lowers it. Refund provisions lower it. Inflation riders lower it. Inflation protection can be especially expensive. Adding an inflation adjustment may reduce the starting payment by 15 to 30% or more. That is why many retirees choose a fixed annuity payment and rely on Social Security and the portfolio to handle inflation adjustments over time. Again, not perfect. A fixed annuity payment loses purchasing power over time if inflation rises. That is a real risk, but the starting payment is higher. Every choice has a trade-off. Now let us use the example. A $400,000 immediate annuity purchased at age 65 in the current interest rate environment might pay about $2,600 per month for a 65-year-old man under a life, only option, and about $2,500 per month for a 65-year-old woman under life, only assumptions. But suppose we add a refund provision to protect the family from losing unused principal if the retiree dies early. With that protection, a realistic estimate might be around $2,300 per month. That is $27,600 per year. Now we return to the same married couple. They are both 65. They have $1 million saved for retirement. They receive the same Social Security benefits as before, $2,500 per month for one spouse and $1,250 per month for the other. That is $45,000 per year. This time, they take $400,000 of their savings and buy a single premium immediate annuity with a cash refund provision. The annuity pays about $2,300 per month or $27,600 per year. Now their guaranteed income changes dramatically. Social Security gives them $45,000 per year. The annuity gives them $27,600 per year. Together, they have $72,600 per year in guaranteed income. Their desired spending is still $95,000 per year. So now the portfolio does not need to provide $50,000. It only needs to provide $22,400. That is a completely different pressure level. Before, the $1 million portfolio had to fill a $50,000 annual gap. Now after buying the annuity, the remaining $600,000 portfolio has to fill only a $22,400 annual gap. The portfolio is smaller, but the withdrawal burden is also much smaller. That changes the role of the portfolio, and this is the part many people miss. When more spending is covered by guaranteed income, the retiree may be able to invest the remaining portfolio more aggressively. Why? Because the basic income floor is stronger. The retiree is not as dependent on selling portfolio assets every year to cover core spending. The guaranteed income arrives whether the market is up or down. So in the example, the remaining $600,000 portfolio is assumed to earn a 7% real return, rather than the more conservative 5.5% real return used in the portfolio. Only plan each year. They still withdraw $22,400 from the portfolio. But the portfolio is growing by age 70. The portfolio may be a little over $700,000 by age 80. It may be a bit over $1 million by age 90. It may be about $1.8 million. Now look at the combined result by age 90. The annuity has paid $27,600 per year for 25 years, or $690,000 total. The original premium was $400,000. So by age 90, they receive $290,000 more from the annuity than they originally paid into it. The longer they live, the more valuable the annuity becomes. Social Security pays about $1.1 million over 25 years. The remaining portfolio grows to about $1.8 million, even after providing the annual spending gap. And the couple still spends $95,000 per year throughout retirement. That is the power of an income floor. It changes the math, but more importantly, it changes the job of the portfolio. In the first strategy, the portfolio is the main gap filler. In the second strategy, the portfolio is more of a supplemental growth engine because Social Security and the annuity cover most of the spending need. That is a very different psychological experience. If markets fall in the first plan, the retiree may think my income plan is at risk. If markets fall in the second plan, the retiree may think most of my income floor is still intact. I may reduce portfolio withdrawals if necessary, but I'm not completely dependent on the market. That difference can matter enormously. Retirement is not only about averages, it is about surviving bad years without making bad decisions. A strong income floor can help with that. Now, let us be careful. Real life is never this smooth. Markets do not deliver exactly 5.5% or 7% real every year. Returns come in sequences. Some years are great, some years are terrible. Inflation changes purchasing power. Social Security may have cost of living adjustments, but a fixed annuity does not. Unless you paid for an inflation rider, spending patterns change, health changes. Longevity is uncertain, taxes matter, product pricing changes. Insurance company strength matters. So these examples are not promises. They are frameworks. They show how different income structures behave under specific assumptions. The point is not that one approach always beats the other. The point is that income structure matters. Now we need to talk about the trade-offs. The first trade-off is the mental shift. Many retirees unconsciously follow a rule, spend the growth, but do not touch principal. They look at their portfolio and see the original money as sacred. They may be willing to spend dividends, interest, or capital gains, but the idea of spending down principal feels uncomfortable. An annuity requires a different mindset. When you buy an annuity, you are intentionally taking part of your principal and converting it into income. You are not trying to keep that part of the money invested forever. You are spending down that capital through an insurance contract in exchange for guaranteed payments. That feels wrong to some people. They think, I saved that money, I do not want to hand it over. That emotional reaction is understandable, but it is also important to see what the annuity is doing. It is not simply taking your money, it is converting a lump sum into a lifetime income stream. It is shifting longevity risk from you to the insurer. If you live a very long time, the annuity may pay far more than you put in. If you die early, the annuity may pay less than the portfolio would have left, though a refund provision can reduce that risk. This is a transfer of risk, not magic, not a free lunch. Risk transfer, the second trade-off is control. When your money remains in a portfolio, you control it. You can withdraw more if needed, you can invest differently, you can rebalance, you can leave the full remaining balance to heirs, you can change your mind, you can respond to changing circumstances. When you annuitize a portion, that portion is no longer liquid. You cannot call the insurer and say, I want my $400,000 back. You have exchanged that lump sum for a payment stream. That is the deal. Some people value the payment stream more than the lost control. Some people value the control more than the payment stream. Neither is automatically right. The right answer depends on the person. If you have plenty of assets and value maximum flexibility, annuitizing may feel unnecessary. If you have moderate assets and fear outliving your money, annuitizing a portion may feel very comforting. If you have heirs and legacy as a major priority, you may prefer to keep more in the portfolio. If you have no strong legacy goal and want lifetime security, an annuity may make more sense. The third trade off is inheritance. In the portfolio, only strategy if the portfolio performs well and the retiree dies early, heirs may receive a large investment balance. The portfolio remains in the retiree's control until death. In the annuity strategy, some of the original capital has been converted into income. If the retiree dies early, heirs may receive less than they would have received if the full amount had stayed invested. A cash refund provision can protect unused principal, but it does not replicate the upside of a fully invested portfolio. On the other hand, if the retiree lives a very long time, the annuity can pay far more than the original premium and may help preserve the remaining portfolio by reducing withdrawals from it. So annuities can reduce inheritance in early death scenarios but improve stability and longevity protection in long life scenarios. Again, no free lunch. Different outcomes produce different winners. If the retiree dies early, the portfolio may have been better for heirs. If the retiree lives to 95 or 100, the annuity may have been extremely valuable. This is why longevity risk is central. You do not know how long you will live. That uncertainty is the problem. An annuity is one way to insure against living a very long time. The fourth trade-off is inflation. A fixed annuity payment does not rise with inflation unless you purchase an inflation-adjusted option, and that option generally reduces the starting payment significantly. If inflation is high over a long retirement, the purchasing power of the annuity payment declines. That is a real risk. In the example, the annuity pays $27,600 per year. In nominal terms, that amount is fixed. Over 20 or 25 years, inflation can reduce what that payment buys. Social Security may adjust with inflation, and the portfolio can grow and support inflation. Adjusted spending. But the fixed annuity alone does not solve inflation risk. This is why many retirees do not annuitize everything. They may annuitize part of the portfolio to create a floor, while keeping a portfolio for growth and inflation protection. That is the hybrid idea. Do not put every dollar into certainty if certainty cannot grow with prices. Do not put every dollar into volatility if volatility scares you and threatens your income. Combine tools, this is systems thinking. The fifth trade-off is insurer risk. An annuity is only as strong as the insurance company and the regulatory protections behind it. Insurance companies are regulated, and state guarantee associations may provide some protection up to limits. But this is not the same as a U.S. Treasury bond or FDIC. Insured bank deposit, you must care about the insurer's strength, the structure of the contract, and the limits of protections. This does not mean annuities are unsafe. It means the counterparty matters. When you buy guaranteed income, the guarantee comes from someone. Know who that someone is. Now, let us compare the two retirement systems from a risk perspective. The traditional portfolio strategy gives maximum liquidity and control. You keep the full $1 million invested. You decide how to invest. You decide how much to withdraw. You can adapt. You can leave the remaining balance to heirs if markets perform well. The outcome can be excellent, but the portfolio must fund a $50,000 annual gap that creates market dependence. If the market performs poorly early in retirement, the plan can become stressed. If inflation rises, withdrawals may need to increase. If the retiree panics during a downturn and sells at the wrong time, the plan can be damaged. If the retiree lives very long, the portfolio must continue supporting income for decades. The traditional plan provides control, but control comes with responsibility. The hybrid annuity strategy gives less liquidity on the annuitized portion. You give up access to $400,000. You cannot change your mind on that portion. Heirs may receive less in some scenarios. Inflation risk remains if payments are fixed, but the guaranteed income floor rises from $45,000 to $72,600. The portfolio only needs to provide $22,400 per year. That reduces pressure. It may allow the remaining $600,000 to be invested more aggressively for growth. If the retiree lives long, the annuity becomes increasingly valuable. The hybrid plan provides certainty, but certainty costs flexibility. This is the core comparison: control versus certainty, liquidity versus lifetime income, legacy potential versus longevity protection, market dependence versus income floor. No one can answer this correctly without knowing what matters most to the retiree. Now, many people ask which one pays more. That question sounds simple, but it depends on life expectancy and market returns. If markets do well and the retiree dies earlier, the portfolio only strategy may leave more to heirs. If markets are mediocre or poor and the retiree lives a long time, the annuity may provide more security. If the annuity buyer lives to 90 or beyond, the payments can exceed the premium substantially. In the example, $400,000 becomes $690,000 of lifetime income by age 90. Before even considering the psychological benefit of guaranteed cash flow, if the retiree dies after only a few years, the portfolio may have been better unless the refund provision protects remaining principal. The question, which pays more, is really asking which future happens, but you do not know the future. That is why diversification of income sources can be powerful. You do not bet everything on one future. You keep Social Security, you keep a portfolio. Maybe you add an annuity, maybe you do not. The point is to match tools to risks. Now let us talk about Social Security's role. Social Security is already an annuity, like income stream. It pays for life. It has inflation adjustments. It is government backed for many retirees. It is the strongest income floor they have. If your Social Security income already covers most of your essential expenses, you may not need an annuity. Your portfolio can handle discretionary spending and growth. The income floor is already strong. If Social Security covers only a small portion of essential spending, an annuity might be more useful because it fills the gap with guaranteed income. This is why you should not decide on an annuity in isolation. The first step is to calculate your existing guaranteed income, Social Security pension rental income if stable, other guaranteed or highly reliable income streams. Then compare that income to your essential spending: housing, food, healthcare, utilities, insurance, transportation, taxes, basic living costs. If guaranteed income covers essential spending, your portfolio has a more flexible job. If guaranteed income does not cover essential spending, your portfolio must carry the essentials. And that can create stress. The stronger your income floor, the more freedom your portfolio has. That is one of the biggest lessons. Now let us talk about spending. In the example, the couple wants $95,000 per year and keeps spending constant. Real life is more complicated. Spending can be divided into essential and discretionary categories. Essential spending must be paid. Discretionary spending can adjust. If a retiree's guaranteed income covers essentials, then the portfolio is mostly funding lifestyle upgrades, travel, gifts, hobbies, and extra flexibility. that is psychologically easier if the portfolio is funding rent, food, insurance, and healthcare, then every market decline feels more threatening. This is why retirement planning should not only ask, how much do I want to spend? It should ask which spending must be guaranteed and which spending can be flexible. That question changes the design. Annuities are best suited for covering spending that must happen for life. Portfolios are better suited for flexible spending, growth, liquidity, and legacy. When each tool is assigned the right job, the plan becomes stronger. Now, let us consider the 5% withdrawal rate in the first strategy. A 5% withdrawal rate can work in many situations, but it requires attention. If the retiree is flexible, if spending declines with age, if Social Security provides a floor, and if markets perform reasonably, it can be sustainable. But if the retiree insists on increasing withdrawals with inflation every year no matter what, and markets perform badly early, risk rises. This is why withdrawal rates are not laws. They are starting points. A withdrawal rate is not safe or unsafe in the abstract. It depends on asset allocation market sequence, inflation, spending flexibility, taxes, time horizon, and guaranteed income. A retiree with strong guaranteed income can often take more portfolio risk or adjust withdrawals more easily. A retiree with no income floor must be more careful. This is why I dislike simplistic rules. Retirement income is a system, not one percentage. Now let us think about the portfolio growth in the annuity example. The remaining portfolio grows more because two things happen. First, withdrawals are smaller relative to the portfolio. Taking $22,400 from $600,000 is around 3.7%. That is a lower burden than taking $50,000 from $1 million, which is 5%. Second, because guaranteed income covers more spending, the couple may invest the remaining portfolio more aggressively and assume a 7% real return in the example. A higher expected return plus lower withdrawal pressure allows the portfolio to compound significantly. That is why the hybrid example can show a larger portfolio at age 90 than the portfolio only strategy, even though $400,000 was removed to buy an annuity. This surprises people. They assume buying an annuity always reduces portfolio wealth. It can, but by reducing withdrawals and increasing the ability to take growth risk with the remaining assets, it may allow the remainder to compound strongly. This is not guaranteed. It depends on returns and behavior, but the mechanism is real. Income floors can change asset allocation. Asset allocation can change growth. Lower withdrawals can preserve compounding. That is the chain. Now, what if the market does not deliver 7% real returns? Then the annuity example changes. The portfolio may not grow to 1.8 million. It may grow less. It may even decline in poor market conditions, but the guaranteed income still reduces the portfolio spending burden. The annuity continues paying. Social Security continues paying. So the income floor still has value. What if the market does very well? Then the portfolio only strategy may also do extremely well. Keeping the full $1 million invested may produce a larger inheritance than annuitizing. The annuity may look unnecessary in hindsight. That is why hindsight is dangerous. After we know the market return and the date of death, the best strategy is obvious. Before we know them, we need risk management. Retirement planning is done before the outcome is known. That is why income diversification matters. Now, let us talk about the psychological discomfort of annuities. Many people hate the idea that the insurance company keeps the money if they die early. That is why refund provisions exist. But refund provisions reduce the payment. So the question becomes, how much income are you willing to give up to protect heirs from early death risk? Some people will pay for that protection. Others will choose life. Only to maximize income. Others will avoid annuities entirely. Again, no universal answer. A person with strong legacy goals may choose differently from a person with no heirs or no desire to leave a large estate. A person with health concerns may choose differently from someone with long-lived parents and excellent health. A person with a pension may choose differently from someone with no pension. A person with a volatile portfolio may choose differently from someone with a balanced portfolio and strong nerves. Context decides. Now let us talk about the word guarantee. In retirement, guarantees are valuable because uncertainty is everywhere. You do not know how long you will live. You do not know future market returns. You do not know future inflation. You do not know future healthcare costs. You do not know tax law. You do not know whether you will need expensive care. You do not know whether your spouse will outlive you by decades. A guaranteed income floor reduces some of that uncertainty. It does not eliminate all risk. A fixed annuity does not eliminate inflation risk. It does not eliminate healthcare risk. It does not eliminate taxes. It does not eliminate insurer risk. It does not eliminate the need for a portfolio, but it does reduce longevity and market income risk on the annuitized portion. That is useful for some retirees. Now, let us talk about why annuities are controversial. Some are sold badly, some are complex, some have high costs, some have surrender charges, some are misunderstood, some people buy without understanding what they gave up. Some advisors avoid them because they do not fit their compensation model. Some advisors sell too many of them because they do fit their compensation model. So the product category has trust issues. That is understandable. But a product being misused does not mean the product is useless. A hammer can build a house or break a window. The question is whether the tool fits the job. A SPIA is one of the simpler annuity structures. It is not designed to be glamorous. It is designed to convert capital into guaranteed income. That is the job. If that job is useful, it deserves consideration. If that job is not needed, it may not belong. Do not make the decision based on labels. Make it based on function. Now let us talk about legacy. Leaving money behind can be very important. Some retirees want to help children. Some want to support grandchildren. Some want to donate to charity. Some want to preserve family property. Some simply want the comfort of knowing they did not spend everything. A portfolio supports legacy because remaining assets can pass to heirs. An annuity may reduce legacy depending on the payout structure and lifespan, but it can also indirectly help legacy by reducing pressure on the portfolio. In the hybrid example, the remaining portfolio grows substantially because withdrawals are lower. If the retiree lives long and markets cooperate, heirs may still receive a large portfolio. So legacy is not automatically worse with an annuity. It depends on the sequence. If the retiree dies early, the portfolio only strategy may leave more. If the retiree lives long, the annuity can protect spending and allow the remaining portfolio to grow. The refund provision can protect unused principal, but it lowers income. These are the trade-offs. You cannot discuss legacy without discussing life expectancy and market returns. Now let us talk about liquidity. Liquidity is control. When money is in a portfolio, you can access it. You can use it for a home repair, medical cost, family emergency, long-term care, or a major life change. When money is annuitized, it becomes a payment stream. That stream is valuable, but the lump sum is no longer available. This is why no retiree should annuitize money they may need as a lump sum. Emergency reserves still matter, liquid investments still matter, home repair reserves matter, medical reserves matter, flexibility matters, and annuity can be part of a plan. But if it consumes too much of the portfolio, it can create a liquidity problem. The right amount is crucial. In the example, $400,000 of the $1 million is annuitized, leaving $600,000 invested. That preserves meaningful liquidity and growth capital. Annuitizing the entire $1 million would be a completely different decision. That may create a strong income stream, but very limited liquidity and legacy flexibility. For many people, partial annuitization is more practical than full annuitization. Again, balance. Now let us talk about taxes briefly. Retirement income is not only about gross cash flow. Taxes matter. Social Security may be taxable depending on income. Portfolio withdrawals may create capital gains, dividends, or ordinary income depending on account type. Annuity payments may be taxed depending on whether the annuity is qualified or non-qualified and how the premium was funded. The source focuses on the income mechanics, not a tax model, but in real planning, taxes must be included. A $95,000 spending target may require more than $95,000 of gross income if taxes are owed. This does not change the framework. It means the framework must be personalized. Gross income is not spendable income. After-tax income is what matters. Now let us talk about inflation again. A fixed annuity creates nominal certainty. It tells you how many dollars will arrive. It does not guarantee what those dollars will buy. Social Security helps because it has cost of living adjustments. The portfolio helps because it can grow and adjust over time. But if the annuity is fixed, its real value declines with inflation. This is why the hybrid plan is often more realistic than an annuity. Only plan, the annuity covers a base. The portfolio handles growth and inflation. Social Security adjusts. Each part has a job. If you expect high inflation, be cautious about locking too much income into fixed payments unless you understand the trade-off. If you pay for inflation, adjusted annuity payments expect a lower starting payment, again, no free lunch. Now, let us think about long life. The longer you live, the more important lifetime income becomes. If you die at 68, a life annuity may not look good. If you live to 98, a life annuity may look excellent. That is because the annuity pools longevity risk. Some people die early. Some live long. The insurer uses the pool to pay lifetime income. The people who live longer benefit from the pooling mechanism. This is why annuities are insurance against living too long financially. That phrase sounds strange. Living a long life is a blessing. But financially, living longer than expected can create a risk that the portfolio runs out. An annuity directly addresses that risk. The question is whether that risk is large enough in your life to justify giving up liquidity. That is the decision. Now let us talk about spending behavior. Some retirees underspend because they fear running out of money. They may have enough assets, but they cannot emotionally spend. They watch the portfolio balance. They worry about markets. They avoid travel. They avoid helping family. They live smaller than they need to live. A guaranteed income stream can sometimes give permission to spend. If a retiree knows that Social Security and an annuity cover most of the spending target, they may feel more comfortable using money for life rather than constantly preserving principal. That psychological benefit can be real. A retirement plan that looks mathematically optimal but leaves the retiree afraid to spend may not be optimal in life. The purpose of retirement savings is to support retirement, not only to produce a large balance at death. That does not mean spend recklessly. It means income design affects behavior. Now, some retirees have the opposite problem. They overspend early and rely too heavily on the portfolio. In that case, guaranteed income may prevent total disaster for a portion of spending, but it may also create false confidence if the remaining portfolio is drawn too aggressively. Again, planning matters. No product solves behavior completely. Now let us compare the emotional experience at age 80 in the portfolio. Only plan, the couple still has Social Security and a portfolio if markets have performed well. The portfolio may be around $1.1 million. They have been withdrawing $50,000 per year. If they are comfortable with market risk, they may be fine. In the hybrid plan, the couple has Social Security, the annuity, and a portfolio that may be over $1 million. The portfolio withdrawals are smaller, the income floor is stronger. The retiree may feel less pressure. Both can work. The difference is how the risk is distributed. The portfolio only plan concentrates more risk in the market. The hybrid plan transfers some longevity and market income risk to the insurer. That is the design difference. Now, let us think about age 90 in the portfolio. Only plan, the portfolio may be around $1.3 million under the assumptions. The couple has withdrawn about $1.3 million over 25 years. That is a strong result. In the hybrid plan, the annuity has paid $690,000. Social Security has paid about $1.1 million. The remaining portfolio may be around $1.8 million. That is also a strong result, which is better. It depends on the assumptions and values. The hybrid plan appears very attractive under the example because the smaller portfolio withdrawal and higher real return allow the remaining investments to compound strongly. But that result depends on market performance and the ability to invest more aggressively with confidence. If the retiree bought an annuity but still invested the remaining portfolio conservatively, the result may differ. If the retiree kept the full portfolio and invested more aggressively anyway, the comparison may differ. That is why examples teach mechanics, not universal conclusions. The mechanic is this: guaranteed income can reduce portfolio withdrawals and may allow the rest of the portfolio to take more growth risk. That is the lesson. Now, let us talk about annuity timing. Payouts are affected by age and interest rates. Buying at age 65 produces one payout. Buying later at 70 or 75 may produce a higher payout because life expectancy is shorter. But waiting means you must manage the portfolio longer and may miss years of guaranteed income. Higher interest rates can improve payouts. Lower rates reduce them, so the timing of annuity purchase matters. Some retirees may choose to annuitize at retirement. Some may delay, some may ladder annuity purchases over time, some may never buy. The source uses age 65 and current rate assumptions for illustration, but real planning can be more flexible. The important point is to understand what drives the quote age, gender, rates, guarantees, payout structure, insurer. These variables matter. Now, let us talk about the phrase stronger income floor. An income floor is the amount of income you can count on before touching volatile assets. Social Security is part of it. Pensions are part of it. Annuities can be part of it. A stronger income floor reduces the amount that must come from the portfolio. This can reduce sequence of returns risk. Sequence risk is the danger that poor market returns occur early in retirement while withdrawals are being taken. If you sell assets after a decline to fund spending, you reduce the shares available to recover later. Early bad returns can harm a plan more than the same returns later. Guaranteed income helps because it can reduce the need to sell portfolio assets during bad markets. That is one of the strongest arguments for income floors. They do not make markets safer. They make you less dependent on selling into weak markets. That is important. Now let us talk about flexibility in the portfolio. Only plan. The portfolio only plan can be very powerful if the retiree is willing to adjust. A retiree can reduce withdrawals in bad years, skip inflation increases, delay big purchases, cut travel, use cash reserves, rebalance, or adjust spending categories. Flexibility can make a higher withdrawal rate much more sustainable. The problem is that not all spending is flexible. If the $50,000 portfolio withdrawal funds core needs, flexibility may be limited. If it funds discretionary spending, flexibility is easier. This is why spending classification matters. Again, essential expenses should ideally be covered by guaranteed or very reliable income. Flexible expenses can be funded by the portfolio. That is a clean structure, but many households cannot fully achieve it. They use the portfolio for both essentials and discretionary spending. That is where anxiety rises. An annuity may help cover some of that essential gap. Now, let us talk about who might consider an annuity. A retiree with limited guaranteed income and a strong fear of outliving money may consider it. A retiree who values predictable monthly income may consider it. A retiree with no strong legacy motive may consider it. A retiree who has enough liquidity left after annuitizing may consider it. A retiree who wants to invest the rest of the portfolio more aggressively may consider it. A retiree in good health with family longevity may consider it. A retiree who wants essentials covered before taking market risk may consider it. Now, who might avoid it? A retiree who needs full liquidity. A retiree with a short life expectancy. A retiree whose guaranteed income already covers expenses. A retiree with a major legacy goal. A retiree uncomfortable giving up control. A retiree facing high inflation concerns and unwilling to accept a lower inflation adjusted payout. A retiree who does not trust the insurer or product. A retiree who has enough assets to insure longevity risk. A retiree who needs flexibility for long-term care or family support. Again, context. Now, let us talk about not annuitizing too much. Even if an annuity makes sense, size matters. The annuity should solve a specific income gap. It should not automatically consume the entire portfolio. A good question is, how much guaranteed income do I need to cover essential spending? If Social Security covers $45,000 and essentials are $70,000, maybe the gap is $25,000. An annuity can be sized around that need if desired spending is $95,000 but essential spending is lower. Perhaps the annuity does not need to cover the full $95,000. The size should match the purpose. Too small and it does not meaningfully reduce risk. Too large and it may create liquidity and legacy problems. The correct size is a planning decision, not a sales decision. Now let us talk about the language of buying income. When you buy an annuity, you are not buying an investment in the normal sense. You are buying an income contract. That is why comparing annuities to stocks can be misleading. Stocks are ownership assets. They can grow, fall, pay dividends, and remain liquid. An annuity is a contractual income stream. Its value is in certainty, not upside. If you compare only expected return, you may miss the insurance value. If you compare only certainty, you may miss the opportunity cost. This is why the decision is nuanced. Annuities are not replacements for portfolios. They are risk transfer tools that can sit beside portfolios. That is the proper category. Now let us consider the retiree's emotional balance. A retiree with all money in the market may feel exposed. A retiree with too much money locked in annuities may feel trapped. A retiree with an income floor and a liquid portfolio may feel balanced. That balance can improve quality of life. Money is not only about the final account balance, it is about whether the retiree can live without constant fear. If guaranteed income allows someone to enjoy retirement more, that has value. If giving up control causes stress, that is cost. This is why the numbers must be combined with temperament. A financial plan must fit the person who has to live inside it. Now let us talk about the advisor's role. A good advisor should not begin with product. They should begin with the household balance sheet and cash flow. What do you want to spend? What income is guaranteed? What is essential? What is discretionary? What assets are liquid? What are the tax characteristics? What is your health? What is your family longevity? How important is legacy? How much risk can you tolerate? What happens if the market falls 30%? What happens if one spouse dies? What happens if you live to 95? What happens if inflation stays elevated? What happens if healthcare costs rise? Only after answering those questions should the discussion turn to whether an annuity fits. If the conversation starts with the product, be cautious. Retirement income is not product shopping, it is system design. Now, let us think about the phrase contractually secure. That is what separates guaranteed income from portfolio withdrawals. A portfolio withdrawal depends on asset performance and account balance. A SPIA payment depends on the insurance contract that can reduce uncertainty. But contractual security is not the same as flexibility. Contracts have terms once established. The terms are generally fixed. You cannot easily adjust later. That is why you must understand the contract before signing income amount, start date, payout option, refund provision, joint life terms, survivor benefit, inflation adjustment fees or embedded costs, insurer rating state protections, tax treatment, liquidity limitations. The details matter. A small difference in payout option can change outcomes. Now, let us talk about joint life for couples. The example simplifies the annuity discussion, but real couples need to consider what happens when one spouse dies. Does the income continue for the surviving spouse at what percentage? Does it continue at 100%, 75%, 50%? Is the annuity based on one life or joint lives? Does the refund provision apply? What are the implications for Social Security after one spouse dies? This matters because household income can drop when one spouse dies. One Social Security benefit may disappear or be replaced by the higher survivor benefit. Expenses may not fall proportionately. The surviving spouse may still have housing, taxes, insurance, utilities, and healthcare costs. So a retirement income plan must consider both lives. A life-only annuity on one spouse may create risk for the survivor if not designed properly. Again, details. Now, let us talk about the cash refund provision in the example. This provision is psychologically helpful because it reduces the fear of dying early and losing unused principal. If $400,000 is paid in and only $150,000 is received before death, heirs receive the difference under the example. That protection makes the annuity more acceptable to many retirees. But it lowers the monthly payout. That is fine. If the retiree values the protection, the key is to understand the trade-off. You are not getting the refund provision for free. The insurer prices it into the payment. Now, what about life? Life only maximizes income. It may be best for someone who does not care about leaving that annuity principal to heirs, has strong health, expects long life, and wants maximum lifetime cash flow. But it creates the largest early death legacy risk. What about period certain? That can be useful if the retiree wants at least 10 or 20 years of payments guaranteed to themselves or heirs, but again, lower payout. What about inflation? Adjusted, that protects purchasing power better, but starts lower. Every rider or feature answers one fear by creating another cost. That is the structure. Now, let us talk about the traditional portfolio again. A portfolio is powerful because it is adaptable. If inflation rises, stocks may eventually adjust, though not perfectly if spending changes. Withdrawals can change. If heirs matter, remaining assets can pass on. If emergencies arise, money is available. If markets perform well, wealth can grow substantially. This flexibility is the portfolio's greatest strength. But flexibility can also create anxiety because the money is available, the retiree must decide how much to spend. Because the balance fluctuates, the retiree must tolerate volatility. Because markets are uncertain, the retiree must manage fear. Annuities remove some decisions by locking in income. Portfolios preserve options by leaving decisions open, which is better depends on whether open decisions feel like freedom or stress. That is a personal issue. Now let us talk about withdrawal mechanics. In the portfolio, only plan $50,000 comes out each year. If the portfolio earns 5.5% real and withdrawals are constant, the account can grow. But if returns are lower or withdrawals rise, the outcome changes. A bad sequence early can require adjustments. In the hybrid plan, only $22,400 comes out each year from the portfolio. That creates more margin. If markets are bad, the retiree may be able to reduce discretionary withdrawals more easily because a larger portion of total spending is covered by guaranteed income. Margin is important. Retirement plans fail when there is no margin. A larger income floor can create margin. Now let us think about the $95,000 spending target. In both examples, the couple wants the same spending. That is important because the comparison is not about one couple living more cheaply than the other. It is about different income structures supporting the same desired lifestyle. In the first structure, Social Security covers $45,000 and the portfolio covers $50,000. In the second structure, Social Security covers $45,000, the annuity covers $27,600, and the portfolio covers $22,400. The same spending, different risk distribution, that is the whole point. Now let us talk about peace of mind. Peace of mind is not a soft factor. It affects behavior. A retiree who feels secure may stick with a plan. A retiree who feels insecure may sell in panic, underspend, or make reactive changes. If an annuity creates enough security to allow the retiree to hold the remaining portfolio through downturns, it may improve real-world outcomes even if a spreadsheet comparison is uncertain. Behavioral stability has value. This is one of the most underappreciated benefits of income floors. They help people behave better. A plan that creates calm can be more valuable than a plan that is theoretically superior but emotionally impossible. Now, let us discuss the reverse. If buying an annuity makes a retiree feel trapped, regretful, and anxious about liquidity, it may not improve behavior. They may feel worse, not better. They may resent the decision. They may worry about emergencies. They may feel they gave up too much control. Then the annuity may be wrong for that person. Again, the plan must fit the person, not the other way around. Now let us talk about what I would not do. I would not annuitize simply because someone says guaranteed income is always good. I would not reject annuities simply because someone says they are always bad. I would not compare only the highest possible monthly payout without understanding what happens at death. I would not ignore inflation. I would not annuitize money needed for emergencies. I would not buy a complex product without understanding fees and surrender charges. I would not make the decision without comparing it to Social Security, pensions, portfolio withdrawals, taxes, and legacy goals. I would not let a salesperson define the problem. The retiree must define the problem first, then choose tools. Now let us talk about the actual framework a retiree can use. First, calculate desired spending, not vague spending, real spending, essential and discretionary. Second, calculate guaranteed income already available, Social Security, pensions, other reliable income. Third, identify the income gap. How much must the portfolio provide? Fourth, evaluate the withdrawal rate. Is the gap 3% of the portfolio, 4%, 5% more? Fifth, assess flexibility. Can spending be reduced in bad markets? Which expenses can be cut? Sixth, assess emotional tolerance. Can you handle portfolio declines while withdrawing? Seventh, evaluate longevity risk. Would living to 95 or 100 create fear? 8th, evaluate legacy goals. How important is leaving money behind? 9th, evaluate liquidity needs. How much money must remain accessible? 10th, only then consider whether annuitizing a portion improves the system. This is a better process than asking, should I buy an annuity? The answer depends on the system. Now let us think about the two examples in one sentence. The traditional portfolio strategy gives you control and upside but relies more heavily on market performance. The hybrid annuity strategy gives you a stronger income floor and less portfolio pressure but requires giving up liquidity and some legacy flexibility on the annuitized portion. That is the trade. Retirement income is trade-offs. Now let us talk about the danger of false precision. The example uses clean numbers. 5.5% real, 7% real, $50,000 per year, $22,400 per year, age 70, 80, 90 portfolio balances, total payouts. These numbers help us see the mechanics, but real life is uneven. A retiree may have a big healthcare expense, a spouse may die, taxes may change, markets may fall early, inflation may surprise, spending may decline. The annuity quote may differ. The insurer may price differently. Interest rates may change, so do not treat the projection as destiny. Treat it as a map of relationships. Higher guaranteed income lowers portfolio withdrawal needs. Lower withdrawals can improve portfolio durability. Annuities transfer longevity risk, portfolios retain flexibility and legacy. Inflation matters. Life expectancy matters. That is what the example teaches. Now, what about the couple's legacy at age 90 in the portfolio? Only plan the portfolio may be around $1.3 million. In the hybrid plan, the remaining portfolio may be around $1.8 million under the example. That surprises people because they assume annuities always reduce inheritance. But because the annuity reduced withdrawals and allowed the remaining portfolio to grow more aggressively, the remaining portfolio can become larger under certain assumptions. This is not guaranteed, but it shows why simplistic anti-annuity arguments can be incomplete. An annuity does not always reduce the estate in every scenario. It depends on longevity, return, withdrawal behavior, and annuity design. This is why I prefer modeling to slogans. Now, let us talk about the retiree who says, I do not want to touch principal. This mindset can cause unnecessary fear. Spending from a portfolio in retirement is not failure, it is the purpose of saving. But the fear is understandable because principal feels like security. An annuity reframes principal as income that can be helpful or uncomfortable. A retiree must decide whether they prefer seeing a large account balance or receiving a predictable payment. Some people want the balance, some people want the paycheck, some need both. The hybrid strategy tries to provide both, a guaranteed paycheck from Social Security and annuity, a remaining portfolio balance for growth, flexibility, and legacy. That is why the hybrid can feel balanced. Now let us talk about pensions. A pension is also a guaranteed income stream. If a retiree already has a large pension plus Social Security, they may not need an annuity because the income floor is already strong. Their portfolio can be invested for growth and legacy. If a retiree has no pension, the annuity can act as a personal pension created from savings. That is one of the best ways to understand it. An annuity can convert part of a 401k or IRA into a pension, like paycheck. If you value pensions, you may value annuities. If you value liquidity and control more, you may not. Again, context. Now let us talk about married couples and survivor income. If the annuity is not designed carefully, the death of one spouse can create problems. A joint life annuity may pay for both lives, but the payout is lower. A single life annuity may pay more but may stop when the annuitant dies. A refund provision may return unused principal but may not provide ongoing income to the survivor in the same way. So couples need to model survivor scenarios. What happens if one spouse dies at 70, at 80, at 90? How does Social Security change? Does the annuity continue? Does the portfolio support the survivor? What expenses remain? Without survivor analysis, the plan is incomplete. Now let us talk about the fear of insurance companies. Some retirees distrust insurance companies that may be based on experience, headlines, or complexity. The response should not be blind trust. The response should be due diligence. Choose financially strong insurers. Understand state guarantee limits. Avoid products you do not understand. Compare quotes. Evaluate fees and terms. Use fiduciary advice if possible. Keep annuity allocation reasonable. Do not put all money with one company if that creates concentration risk. Again, risk management. Now let us talk about the investor's identity. During accumulation, people often become proud of their portfolio. The account balance represents decades of discipline. Annuitizing part of it can feel like undoing the work. But retirement requires a new identity. You are no longer only an accumulator. You are an income designer. That shift is difficult. The best retirement plan is not the one that preserves the account balance at all costs. It is the one that supports life, manages risk, and aligns with goals. If preserving every dollar prevents you from living, the plan may be too rigid. If spending too freely risks running out, the plan may be too loose. The art is balance. Now, let us return to the two strategies. Strategy 1, $1 million invested, $45,000 from Social Security, $95,000 desired spending, $50,000 portfolio gap, 5% withdrawal rate, assume 5.5% real return. Portfolio potentially grows to about $1.3 million by age 90 after withdrawing around $1.3 million over 25 years. This works when market returns support it and the retiree can manage risk. Strategy $21 million at retirement, $400,000 used to buy a SPIA with cash refund, $27,600 annual annuity income, $45,000 from Social Security, $72,600 guaranteed income floor, $22,400 portfolio gap, $600,000 remains invested. Assume 7% real return. Portfolio potentially grows to about $1.8 million by age 90. Annuity pays about $690,000 over 25 years. This works when the retiree values income certainty and can accept reduced liquidity on the annuitized portion. Both strategies can be rational. The question is not which one is universally superior. The question is which system solves your retirement risks best. Now let us talk about what happens if spending declines. In real life, many retirees reduce spending as they age. If that happens, both plans improve. But the hybrid plan may improve in a particular way because the first place the retiree may reduce spending is portfolio withdrawals. Social Security and annuity payments keep arriving. If spending drops from $95,000 to a lower amount, the retiree may need even less from the portfolio, allowing it to compound more. This is one reason the projection may be conservative in the source example. But healthcare costs can complicate this. Some retirees spend less on travel and lifestyle, but more on medical care or long-term care. So again, planning must be personal. Now let us talk about long-term care. Annuity income may help with predictable spending, but long-term care can create large costs. A portfolio provides liquidity for unexpected large expenses. An annuity provides income but not access to the lump sum. That means retirees considering annuities must preserve enough liquidity for potential care needs unless they have other insurance or resources. Do not annuitize away your flexibility if you may need large lump sums. This is another reason partial annuitization is often more practical. Now let us talk about why the annuity can allow more aggressive investing. If a retiree's guaranteed income covers most spending, the remaining portfolio is less likely to be needed in a bad market that can allow a higher equity allocation which can increase expected real return. But this requires the retiree to actually stick with the aggressive portfolio if they still panic during downturns. The assumed higher return may not materialize. The annuity reduces pressure. It does not remove the need for discipline. A portfolio with more equities can still fall sharply. The retiree must understand why the allocation was chosen and how the income floor protects spending. Education matters. Now let us talk about the danger of chasing high annuity payouts. A life-only annuity may show the highest monthly income, but it may not fit a couple with legacy goals or survivor concerns. A quote should not be evaluated only by the biggest number. The structure behind the number matters. Higher payout often means fewer protections. Lower payout often means more protections. The retiree must choose which risks to retain and which to transfer. Again, every guarantee has a cost. Now, let us talk about the role of a cash reserve. Whether using portfolio only or hybrid, retirees need cash reserves. A portfolio only retiree may use cash to avoid selling during a downturn. A hybrid retiree still needs cash for emergencies because annuity income is not a lump sum. Cash reserves provide flexibility. Guaranteed income is not a replacement for emergency liquidity. Portfolio assets are not a replacement for stable cash. Each tool has a job. This is the principle repeated again. Now, what is the main lesson? How you structure income matters as much as how much you have. $1 million can support retirement in different ways. The same starting wealth can produce different experiences depending on whether income comes from a portfolio, Social Security, an annuity, or a combination. A portfolio gives flexibility and growth. Social Security gives inflation, adjusted lifetime income. An annuity gives contractually guaranteed income. Each tool solves a different risk. Retirement planning is about combining tools so that the whole system is stronger than any one piece. Now let us speak directly. If you hate annuities because you hate giving up control, that is understandable. But do not dismiss the value of a stronger income floor if market risk scares you. If you love annuities because you love guaranteed income, that is understandable. But do not ignore liquidity, inflation, legacy, and insurer risk. If you rely only on withdrawal rates, you may miss income structure. If you rely only on guaranteed income, you may miss growth. The best answer often lives between extremes. Now let us define the real decision. You are not choosing between portfolio and annuity. You are choosing how much of your retirement risk you want to keep and how much you want to transfer. Market risk, longevity risk, inflation risk, liquidity risk, legacy risk, behavioral risk. Annuities transfer some longevity and market income risk, but increase liquidity and legacy trade-offs. Portfolios keep control and growth but retain market and behavioral risk. Social Security provides a powerful baseline. Your job is to decide which risks you can live with. That is retirement income planning, not slogans, risk allocation. Now, let us close with the framework. Start with the floor. How much guaranteed income do you already have? Then identify the gap. How much spending must come from the portfolio? Then ask whether that gap feels safe. If the gap is modest and flexible, the portfolio may be enough. If the gap is large and essential, consider whether adding guaranteed income reduces the pressure. Then ask what you give up. Liquidity, control, potential legacy, inflation protection, flexibility. Then ask what you gain. Certainty, lifetime income, reduced portfolio withdrawals. Greater ability to take growth risk with remaining assets, peace of mind. Only then can you decide. A traditional portfolio strategy can be excellent. A hybrid annuity strategy can be excellent. Both can be wrong in the wrong situation. There is no single correct answer because there is no single retiree. But there is one correct process. Understand your spending. Understand your guaranteed income. Understand your portfolio gap. Understand the risks. Understand the trade-offs. Then design the income system. Not the other way around in retirement. The most dangerous mistake is to think the account balance alone solves the problem. It does not. $1 million is a resource. It is not a plan. The plan is how that $1 million becomes cash flow. Safety, flexibility, and dignity for as long as you live. And the moment you understand that, the annuity debate becomes less emotional. It becomes a question of engineering. What income floor do I need? What portfolio risk can I tolerate? How much liquidity must I preserve? How much legacy matters? How long might I live? What happens if markets disappoint? What happens if I live to 95? Those are the questions that matter because retirement is not won by having the largest spreadsheet number. It is won by having an income system that lets you live through uncertainty without being forced into bad decisions. For some people, that system will be Social Security plus portfolio. For others, it will be Social Security plus annuity plus portfolio. For others, it will include a pension. The right structure is the one that makes your retirement durable. And durability is what matters when you no longer have a paycheck to fix mistakes.